We're off on a short trip to Uruguay. We're actually going to take a week and hire a car and just do a short road trip around the country. So we've come down to the ferry terminal in Buenos Aires, and I guess shortly we'll be boarding the ferry that's just pulling up alongside the terminal. Ben's very diligently just been using the waiting time to do a little bit of work, and I've just been sat reading my book. The ferry's a bit like the old-fashioned cross-channel ferries you used to get. You can't actually get out on deck, which is a bit of a shame. The crossing's just over an hour. Well, we've arrived in Colonia, but our tickets are to Montevideo. Because we got the cheap tickets, it looks like we're going to have to get a bus for the rest of the journey. Still, I guess it means that we'll see a bit more of the Uruguayan countryside on this journey. Colonia is actually supposed to be really nice, but we have plans to go back another time. Anyway, I think we're just coming into Montevideo now. We've checked into our hotel and we're staying here in the old part of the city. We thought we'd just come out and have a little wander around and hopefully find a bite to eat. It's a Saturday and it's quite lively here actually. Well, there's a street market here as you can see, and I think on our right this is a university campus. And there's obviously some live music going on there. The city is packed full of young people tonight. Well, seeing all those students sitting around drinking made us fancy a drink too. And we've heard that Uruguay is good for tannin wines, so we thought we'd try a bottle.
Very nice.
Thought we'd take a walking tour of the city this morning, and we're meeting right here underneath the old city gate, or what remains of it. This is quite an interesting square. In the distance you can see Palacio Salvo, which was created by the same architect and to the same plans, Palacio Barolo in Buenos Aires. Only because this one was built a few years later, it's just slightly taller. Bit of good-natured rivalry going on there. Also on this square is the President's Building, sandwiched between two much nicer original government buildings. The guide was saying that if we'd happened to be here on a weekday, we'd probably see the President. There's very little security, and he's often just out getting a coffee or something. Well, this is a really pretty little square. It's called Place de la Constitution, and you can see the cathedral on the other side. According to the guide, Uruguayans are really proud of how calm the country is. So the president not needing much security is an example of that. Also, the fact that the government very predictably changes hand between centre-right and centre-left after a full term is served. No extremism and no violence. Guess it sets them a bit apart in this part of the world. Last stop on our walking tour is the old port market. We are quite close to the docks here. As you can see, it is a bit touristy here, but it's not too bad. Apparently in summer, November to February-ish time, they get several cruise ships stopping here every day, so up to 10,000 people piling into this little area. Well, the tour's finished, but we're going to wander across the other side of town because there's a big flea market on today. I'm told we can't miss it. Well, it is a huge flea market. They seem to be selling absolutely everything. We're going to see if we can find something to eat. And then we want to walk back through the city in a big loop so we can walk back along the coast. Weirdly, it's not all that easy finding somewhere to eat. We did find a coffee shop in the end. I discovered they make really nice cheese scones here. That's a win. Now we're just wandering back along the coastline. As you can see, we've hired a car this morning and we're just heading out of the city along the coast road. We're heading to a place called La Paloma, which is about a 4-hour drive away. Unfortunately, my driving license has expired, so Ben's going to have to do all the driving on this trip. We're going to be making a few stops today, and the first is at a building just up ahead, which is currently a hotel. It's in a really opulent 1920s building. We thought we'd stop for a coffee. This building is actually owned by the government and leased to Sofitel to use as a hotel. We've probably been driving almost an hour and a half now, and we're just starting to get out into the countryside. We're still broadly heading along the coast in an eastward direction at the moment. I think these are the first cows that we've seen, though I have heard there's 4 times as many cows as there are people in Uruguay. Oh dear, the weather's not looking good, is it? I guess we're here at the wrong time of year, really. There is actually a really big tourist industry here in Uruguay. Brazilians and Argentinians in particular flock to the beaches along this coast for their holidays in the summer. We're very much here in the off-season. This building is another hotel. It's called Casa Pueblo. We thought we'd stop here for lunch. It was constructed by a Uruguayan artist. It's quite quirky. It's supposed to be a great spot to come for sunset. Somehow I don't think the views are going to be all that great at the moment. We're just driving through Punta del Este at the moment, which is where the coast starts curving northwards. This is where the rich and famous come for their holidays. The harbour is full of yachts, though it's a bit hard to see anything with this thick fog. Uruguay's a pretty rich country when measured in per capita terms. It ranks number 41 in the world and top in the Americas. Strictly speaking, Guyana has just overtaken it. That's very heavily skewed by the recent oil wealth. Now, I read about this bridge. It's called La Barra Bridge, or the Wavy Bridge. Apparently they designed it like this to try and reduce speed. It's become a bit of a tourist attraction now. We're about 3 hours out of Montevideo now and properly in the sticks. About half of the population live in Montevideo. The rest of the country really is very rural. It looks like the fog's lifting, but it might be because we've just had to divert inland a little way to get around a big lake. Where we're staying tonight is back down on the coast. And here we are, our hotel for tonight. It is misty again here. It's still really foggy out this morning, but we thought we'd better come down and have a little look at the beach nevertheless, as it's just along these boardwalks from the hotel. I think this would be an absolutely wonderful place to stay in the summer. I expect it would all be pretty heaving though. You wouldn't be seeing these nice big empty stretches of beach that we're seeing now. We're just heading an hour up the coast this morning to a place called Cabo Polonio. Cabo Polonio is in a national park and it's completely off-grid. There's also no roads leading to it. So the arrangement is that you park up here and get this yellow bus type thing. It's about 7 kilometres from here to the small village on the coast. So Cabo Polonio is absolutely tiny. It has a population of less than 100. A lot of them were hippies that settled there in the 60s. And of course all their power comes from solar or wind, and all the water is just rainwater. A big part of the area is a naval base. That preceded the national park status. Now to find our guest house. It's located a little way outside the main kind of settled area. We have good instructions. Wow, this is such a cool beach. And I'm sure it would look really different in the summer and without the fog. This is us just up here on the left. All the accommodation around here is fairly basic, but I've gone for the nicest one I could find. Well, this is great, a sea view from our balcony.
Gracias.
The room looks really nice too. One of the reasons this area got protected status is because there's a really big colony of sea lions here. It's a little way down the coast and also on a couple of the islands just off the coast. So we thought we'd better go and check it out. By the way, that's a dead sea lion. We've seen a couple of them and they do fight to the death. We've also seen quite a few dead penguins washed up on the beach. And that's not caused by fighting. It's because they've starved to death because there's no longer enough fish. Too much fishing and not enough left for the poor penguins. Well, we've found the sea lions, as well as the ones on these rocks in front of us. There's some over to our right. Quite a lot, in fact. Well, they're not doing very much, but they really are very smelly. This one's the dominant male of this little group. It is huge. This youngster looks like he's really being swept away by the waves, but I'm sure he can cope. He must be used to it. It would be cool to be here during breeding season in the summer. I think things would be much more lively then. Although I have to say I'm really enjoying just watching them do not a lot. Wandering back through the main part of the village. Everything looks fairly closed up. There are a few tourists here, but obviously not very many. Actually quite like it, quiet and a little bit desolate. Got a nice feel to it. Looks like it's going to be a really nice day this morning. The fog's completely cleared. We just have time for a quick stroll along the beach before we have to get the bus. There are only 4 buses a day, at least at this time of the year, so we have to time it fairly well. It's a shame to be leaving already. This really is quite a special place. It was wonderful waking up to the sounds of the waves. We're continuing our journey north along the coast. It's about an hour's drive today to a place called Punta del Diablo. As you can see, it's just a little fishing town, come tourist destination, which is only about 25 miles south of the border with Brazil. Paved roads have given way for sandy tracks here in the town. Here we are at the hotel. We're wasting no time in coming straight out again because there's this big national park slightly to the north of town. Weirdly, it's also a military base. So there's bits you can walk in and bits you can't. We've found a circular path to follow. Goes via a viewpoint. And this is the lookout tower. And Ben's opted to stay down below. It really is perfect weather today. Probably about 21 degrees. And as you can see, bright sunshine. We're just going to make another stop down here to have a quick look at the beach. It really is a stunning coastline. I can see why it's such a popular holiday destination. This stretch of shoreline is also a protected area, stretching a little way offshore as well. Well, we're going to head back to our hotel now and chill for a little while. It's turned a bit foggy again today. Anyway, we're just driving this morning. We've got just under 3 hours to get to our next destination. We're heading inland today and broadly southwest, stopping just short of the town of Minas, on the way back to Montevideo. Oh, and it's raining as well now. It is a bit of a shame that the weather hasn't been better on this trip, really. This is the small town of Aigua. To this point, we've just been passing through countryside. The interior is so sparsely populated. Even the cattle and sheep are kept at extremely low density. Lots of these fields are empty, obviously kept for grazing in rotation. We're just a few minutes away from our hotel now. We're staying in this small village called Villa Serrana. And here we are. The area is supposed to be really good for hiking. I'm not sure we'll do much of that with the weather being so miserable. Instead, I think we'll content ourselves by sitting in the restaurant bar area and looking at this quite nice view. We're heading back to Montevideo today. The weather's actually cleared up nicely, but we've got a deadline to get our car back, so no time for walks this morning. They say the countryside here resembles Switzerland, but in my view it's not really mountainous enough. It is very green and lush. Most of the people here identify as being of European descent. It's a big wave of immigration in the early 20th century when the country doubled in size, like Argentina actually. And they've got an ageing population, so they're quite keen to encourage more immigration now. Well, the culture is fairly similar to that of Argentina. I think it really does feel quite European, much more so than Argentina. We're just coming into the outskirts of Montevideo now. Well, I've really enjoyed this trip. It's been super interesting. Beaches were stunning. I'd actually quite like to come back in the summer and stay a little bit longer in some of these places. Perhaps go swimming in the sea. Well, it's time to head back to Buenos Aires now. We're going back to meet my father-in-law, who's coming over for a visit shortly. It'd be nice to spend a little bit more time here in Buenos Aires too.
So here we are, back in Buenos Aires, and happily tucking into a bit of merienda snackage. Happy to be back here, Ben?
It's good.